Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telltales. Welcome to Symbaroum, our long-running dark fantasy campaign, the wonderful TTRPG from Free League. It's really rattling on now. This is episode 20 of Wrath of the Warden, and overall, if my calculations are right, which they rarely are, episode 53 of the campaign as a whole, which is a crazy number, except when you remember that you know we do this once a week. So there we go. So we hope you're ready for it tonight. I am about to give you our information on all the promo stuff while I remember that I forgot to tidy the room behind me. So you're getting an exciting look at the absolute chaos that is my living room at the moment. So lucky you. Promo. Down below, we've got a bunch of links. There's links to YouTube and to Twitch. You are watching this on one, why not check out the other? God damn it. We have lots and lots and lots of old videos available on our YouTube, so go check those out from various series, from one-shots. There are links below as well to our social media, our Patreon, and our Discord. You know what all those things do, friends. If you're interested in them, then have a wee dabble in them. See what you can do. And also, you should know that we run 3 series a week here on Twitch. There is usually Mondays, which is Shadows of Esteren, but for the next couple of weeks, that's going to be on Tuesdays. So check that out there. And then Wednesdays is, of course, Symbaroum. Thursdays is the Cincinnati Chronicles, which is a World of Darkness anthology series. And we also run one-shots on the first weekend of every month. The first one this year was Cyberpunk 2020. The next one we've got lined up, which is probably going to be on Sunday, February the 6th, will be Tales from the Loop. So come and check that out if you're interested. Tales from the Loop is a wonderful little system and an even better setting. So that will be good. We'll have fun with that. And like I say, all the one-shots we've already done, which are loads of them now, all with different systems, check them out on the channel if you like what we do. And with no further ado, as I was slightly vamping for time there, being as our first recap player, his internet died briefly. But oddly, he managed to heal it. Don't know how that happened. That seems out of keeping. Let's bring him on. It's Mike, who plays Anton, Theurg of Prios, and thanks. You like that one? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you credit for that. It was pretty good. Yeah,
it was pretty good. Yeah. He plays Anton. We all love him. Theurg of Prios. There he is. What a handsome guy. Mike's not bad either. Hey. So, oh God. Mike,
right, let's move on.
Let's move on. Let's move on. How did we kick off last week, Mike?
Well, I think there's a little bit of sort of residual concern for Ascarai after a pretty brutal experience that he'd had in the session before, making sure that he was fully healed and back on his feet, which thankfully he was. And we sort of just made our way towards Galamar's tent, really, through Blackmoor. And there was kind of like scenes of people trying to flee the area and stuff like that as they very quickly realized what was going on, and word had spread about what was going on, that the city guard were in town, the whole guard were in town. And on our way to the tent, inevitably, a fight broke out.
Yeah, pretty much. So let's bring on, and these will be short recaps this week, folks, because last week was basically one big fight. Spoilers for the recaps to come. But let's wheel out Chris, who plays Steo, resident curmudgeon, former infantryman turned city guard, turned sellsword, turned the guy who grumbles a lot. Chris.
Grumbly. Well, we got our helms deep on, flanked as we were by a contingent of the city guard, marching up against these the tent of the cult. We were out to ruffle up a little. Everyone, it's become apparent that these cultists, when they start kind of chanting the name of their kind of their weird kind of thing, they don't really stop. They'll just try anything, even if they're basically punching you with poor bloody stumps of hands. So we got into basically a grueling and very sad kind of slaughter combat as we marched over reams and reams of basically desperate refugees on our way to the tent itself. We gradually, once we kind of cleaned up, being the kind of professional murderers, we got through it a little bit quicker than the other members of the guard. But once we cleaned up, we kind of made a beeline straight for the tent, where we encountered Red Eye himself, looking very pale and wan at the back of the tent, and an ogre and several other ads, as the kids say, in the front. And
Absolutely.
we proceeded to
have
get to work on those.
Bit of a fight in there as well. In the meantime, outside, let's bring on Sam. Sam plays Ascarai, our changeling ranger and all-around scout explorer, and Guy with really cool new art. Yeah, look at that.
Very true.
Very, very true. Yeah, tell us what happened outside, Sam.
So, during this fight that had been going on outside, members of the party had occasionally been getting shot at by something that we didn't really see, but luckily they mostly missed. Although I think we all had a good suspicion that it was related to whoever it was that shot Ascarai earlier, who did a good job of trying to kill Ascarai, to be fair. And once a few of them had got in, Ascarai had dealt with the person that was next to him, and he just about managed to notice a cloaked figure dressed all in black hiding in a tree nearby, who seemed to be the person that was shooting these bolts or poisoned whatever they were at the party. And he took a few shots at them. They started running away, but he hit them and managed to kill them, basically. And I think it was later revealed that it was a woman who we don't recognize. Anton went and had a look at her, but didn't recognize her and didn't find too much of interest on her yet, although I don't think we've had a great search of her body just yet.
No. Not had a chance to properly investigate. And meanwhile, on the inside of that tent that Chris mentioned, let's talk to John, who plays Arindar. Last and final. That's a bit gloomy about your prospects of having children.
Spoilers.
Currently the last scion of House Dar, duelist and adventurer. And it clearly at this point, the most morally solid member of the party. Yeah, what was going on inside that tent, John?
A whole bunch of fighting and Alindra getting smacked with a tree branch a lot. Alindra fighting back with her flaming sword, and not at any point thinking that maybe a flaming sword in the middle of a fabric building could be a bad idea. It was a bad idea. The tent set on fire. Red Eye, after some failed persuasion, eventually just kind of deflated as if he'd given up.
Well, everyone else was dead, so...
Well, everyone else was dead and his tent was on fire.
Yeah. It's going to put a crimp in anyone's night.
Yeah. And he let the guards come in and drag him away.
Absolutely. And speaking of that tent being on fire and the fiery climax of the last session, let's bring on our final player, Stephen. Stephen plays Alindra, former Templar novice turned very much not a Templar novice. Yeah, why don't you finish the recap off for us, Stephen?
So, I mean, I think we need to clear this up about this. There's a confusion here between correlation and causation. Yes, there was a flaming sword in the tent.
Could have been another fight. Could have been anything.
Yeah. I mean, you know, all we know is that somehow the tent caught on fire. Yes. So, with Galamar dragged out, the only thing remaining in the tent to do was to go and have a look down some kind of rough steps that were cut down into the earth. And we all have a good cultist's basement. So Elindra and I think it was Ascarai. No, it was Aaron. Went to go and have a look. And there was something down there, large and sort of unpleasant seeming and kind of monstrous. We realized that there was no way that we were going to be able to do anything effective with it in the time that we had to escape the tent. So we kind of ran out and sort of witnessed the final collapse of the tent and whatever it was under there kind of burning and screaming, which eventually, after the fact, Gallimar said that had been his mother.
Yeah.
So that was pleasant and really made us feel good about this whole massacre.
A good, positive, upbeat end to an episode of Symbaroum, as it is on so many occasions.
Yeah.
So yeah, there we go. And I'm, you know what? I'd like to pick up in role play terms, a short while after that. But I'm aware that you might want to do things in the immediate aftermath. So what I'm going to do is I'll just go round and say, in the 5 or 10 minutes after the collapse of Red Eye's tent, is there anything anyone wants to do? And you can do those things and make those rolls and stuff. But in terms of role play, I'd like us to pick up on the road back to Thistlehold, if that's all right. Unless there's any conversations you really need to have, before you leave Blackmoor. Because I know, for one, Marvella will be very keen on getting out of Blackmoor as soon as possible now, so that hopefully some form of order can be restored. So let's just go around in a clockwise fashion, according to what I see. So, John, is there anything Arindar wants to do in like the few moments after that in Blackmoor before leaving?
I don't think so.
Okay. How about Anton, Mike?
Yeah, I think I'm okay. I think Anton would have just given some last rites to some bodies nearby, perhaps, and that's about it. That'll do me.
Yeah, that'll take a good few minutes. So, Ascarai.
Ascarai would definitely like to properly search the assassin's body, see what he can find.
Sure. Well, you know what? She is not carrying very much on her. I will happily give you a kind of maybe a bit more of a description of the kind of things. Like I say, there's that small, quite well-made metal hand crossbow, and some kind of, again, quite expensive, quite well-made leather armor with all painted black with the black cloak over the top of it for maximum sneaking. However, in other terms, if you're looking for anything to link her to any like who hired her, anything, nothing, absolutely nothing. Presumably any assassin worth their salt would be similar in they don't carry around their contract in their pocket. But there are a couple of things you do find. One is you find some garottes. Should you want to do that. And you also find she had 2 pouches at her belt. One is empty, and the other one, do you want to give me you've got beast law, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not going to cut it. You find another pouch that seems to have some kind of, they look like large kind of spores from some kind of plant or fungi of some kind. You don't recognize them.
Okay, I will just keep them very secure for now and probably give them to Anton later to take a look at.
Anton's certainly got a better chance of recognizing them than you.
We've had a few women who have been described to us. I can't remember their exact descriptions, Does
Sure.
this woman match any of those descriptions we've been given? I think they've all been quite kind of like bland.
They've been very generic.
Yeah.
Let me just double check. You know what? I'm gonna just say I was going to double check the description, but for the purposes of clarity, no.
Okay.
I'm going to say I'm pretty sure all the two women who've been mentioned to you as people who've maybe come looking for you or have talked about you, I believe have either been blonde or brown haired. And let's just cut that right out here and say that this woman has dark hair. So it's no, it doesn't,
Okay.
and it doesn't look dyed to you. So no, this isn't a woman you've been given a description of.
I'll take the garrote. I'll take the I think I'll even take the crossbow if I can carry it. It's not too heavy.
Yeah, it's not that heavy. It's like it's intended to be kind of aimed like almost like a pistol.
Okay, I'll take it all, and that'll be it for my post battle actions.
Sure, absolutely. How about Elindra, Stephen?
I will see if anybody is offering any form of healing or medical attention, because Elindra took a fairly severe battering from that ogre with the tree trunk.
Sure. Have we had any healing rolls on Elindra today from Steo or Antom? I don't think we have. So you can go ahead and make those, and if those flump as well, probably one of the city guard will have a go as well. But why don't we get those rolls from those two first?
I'll make it.
Cool. We're using a healing herbal cure.
Yeah, I think so, because we're going to head back to Thistle Holes and we can always buy some more. So
Sure. So
I think
D6, right?
D6.
Off by one, I'm afraid.
2.
Okay.
And we'll go ahead and say that the guard has a go as well. They don't have Medicus, but they'll just use a herbal cure for one on you.
Okay.
As Marvello kind of after they've attended to the city guard, Marvello directs them over to take a look at any of your wounds that remain. So, what does that leave you on, Elindra? How battered are you?
That brings my toughness back up to 11.
Oh wow! That ogre battered you below half, huh?
Oh, it's down to 8, out of 20.
Wow. I guess the goblins were like stabbing you up as well at the same time, right? So
yeah, it was a bad time.
And biting you. Cool. Okay. How about Steo, Chris?
I'm going to borrow Elindra and kind of force as much of a search of the wreckage of the tent as possible. See if there's any documentation or artifacts that have survived.
Sure. So that's Steo and Aaron, did you say?
No, Elindra.
Oh, well, Elindra's being healed.
Okay, well then I'll borrow Aaron. Whoever's close, they'll get called over. And
Aaron was the person. John didn't have anything, so
yeah.
Okay,
Aaron
okay,
looks
I'll
at
borrow
this.
him.
Aaron is in fact looking slightly lost. So
Sure. Well, why don't you give me let's say a vigilant roll at a -5, please. Yeah,
I rolled a
you,
1.
Chris, if you rolled a 1. Okay. Well then, Steo, what was your target, Chris? Though I don't know. Did you succeed?
Oh, my target was like 3.
Okay. Well then, John, for that 1, I am gonna give you something of interest. You find in the I was gonna say the rubble, clearly not rubble. In the charred woods and burnt fabric, you find what at first you think is maybe a brick or just another chunk of wood, and it takes a couple of seconds for you to realize it's a very small, roughly made charred wooden chest. You open that up, and inside is a very limited scattering of coin. Like, I don't know, roll a d6 and take that many ortegs. And also a charred and torn piece of paper. And it looks like it was the fire that did that. It wasn't in this chest charred and torn before. You can basically see, you can't really read it as word, but what you can see is enough to indicate you it's penned with quite an elaborate hand, 2, it contains 3 words that you recognize on it, and I'm just going to do a bit of lovely randomization here with my dice that are desperately trying to resist being pulled out of a bag. You see 3 words, as I said. One of them is Elindra. Another one is Ascarai. And the last, it appears at the bottom right, and therefore could maybe be seen to be a signature. And it just says the Prince, which is a name I think you have, or a term you have heard before.
We have, but I don't remember where.
Anyone remember where? You've heard it in terms that someone called the Prince has sicked these cults on you.
It was from that iron-packed elf that killed Erok, mentioned in the same conversation as Seek the Red Eye, and there are assassins looking for you, and the Prince.
He said,
the Prince wants us dead.
He said something along the lines of you seem to have drawn the attention of the Prince or something like that.
Right.
There is no Prince. Like, just so we're clear, there's no like Prince that you know of at all. The Queen does not have any children. So no.
Is Gallimar still nearby, or has Marvallo already dragged him off?
Let's say at this point, the column is starting to move out of Blackmoor, and Marvello is basically stood right next to Gallimar with his sword drawn and his shield out as 2 city guard kind of bundle him along. Are we all following the group? It's perfectly possible you'll be able to talk to Gallimar on the way back to Thistlehold. You can't see why Marvello would prevent you doing that. But are we starting to move?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. As you trudge your way through the garbage heap and then onto the Black Square, you can see that many of the inhabitants of Blackmoor are now kind of clearly the city guard is leaving, and they're peering curiously at them marching away, with the occasional kind of whispered conversation between them and a lot of attention being paid to Gallimar in chains being carried away. You reach the Black Square. The more certainly they see themselves as the more cultured and civilized members of Blackmoor's population, observe you with more of a sense of detached curiosity, and at least one individual who seems to be kind of buying some food from one of the stalls there kind of shrugs and kind of jeers loudly, "It's about time!" The blood cloaks watch you pass. One of them leans over to another one who kind of laughs softly. And through all this, the bailiff of Blackmoor, Erebus, you never saw him, presumably either drunk back in Thistlehold or drunk in his keep. But either way, you march your way out of Blackmoor, and I think I said it's kind of drawing into evening now, so it's probably quite, it's evening in winter, late autumn, so it's probably quite dark along the road and cold as you trudge your way forward. The rain has kind of eased off, and there's that kind of rich, loamy scent in the air as you're marching along, meadows and fields on either side of you. There are a few individuals who seem to be still coming back from Thistlehold after a day's work, and they kind of steer really clear of the road as the city guard march along. And again, almost all of them kind of like, their eyes widen when they see Gallimar held in chains in the center. A couple of them look pleased, more do not.
A small detail. Did we have horses that we left in Blackmoor?
I was gonna say.
Yeah, and you know what? Marvello picked those horses up, and they're kind of just happily walking along at the end of the line.
Okay, good. Don't want to lose that deposit.
Sure. I think Marvello booked them for you anyway, so.
Okay.
But yeah, nice detail. Thank you. Yeah. So, Aaron, before anyone else gets a look in, did you said you wanted to talk to Gallimar? Do you want to talk to your companions first about this note you found, or what do you want to do?
If he was nearby, I was going to basically walk up to Gallimar and shout at him. But if we've already started on the walk home, I will take it to my friends.
Sure.
I found this in the wreckage.
From the prince. Okay. So this confirms. I sort of look around and see if we're being kind of like, if anybody's eavesdropping.
Why don't you? Yeah, just give me a vigilant roll.
Oh dear. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's a fail. So we're fine.
Yeah, you're probably fine.
So that confirms the elf's warning. So whoever the prince is, they were out to get us. They had employed the red eye.
Seems
like it.
I guess Gallimar should have some more information about who this prince is.
I hope so. Because at the moment we've marched out to Blackmoor and we've rolled on this cult on the say-so of a stranger who seems to have been telling the truth, but has not told us anything useful. Like, we were told to seek out the red eye, and what have we gained from that?
Just a typical elf. Clearly they know something more about the prince, but rather they'd send us on some kind of wild goose chase than just tell us any information they have.
Was this just to establish that they were credible, or is there something we're missing?
It's hard to even know how they think about these things.
Whatever we may have missed has probably gone up in smoke with the tent anyway. What was down that hole?
It was not human, at least not anymore.
Gallimar said it was his mother.
I believe also that the actual, when someone said what happened to her, he said the forest.
I just get the feeling we could have actually done some good here if maybe there was another angle we could have taken.
I don't think.
I feel
think,
like.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like from the moment that we set out for Blackmoor, I'm not sure at what point we could have made a different choice. Like, the city guard were going to do this. This was going to happen. They'd heard of a cult. They were going to root it out. The best we could do was witness. We couldn't stop it.
The writing also seemed on the wall after, like, Erok was uncovered as like a cult within Mihira's agency in the heart of the city.
Yeah.
Maybe a statement had to be made.
Well, I suppose we just go back and wait for the next hits to come out and just work through all the cults in Thistlehold by killing their assassins or getting unlucky in the process. Look, it's a living.
Maybe we'll get a chance to... Maybe we'll get a chance to speak to Gallimar. Maybe we should take that opportunity before the church get to him, because I assume that's where he's going to end up.
I would think so.
I think Marvello at least owes us an audience with Gallimar after what we've done for him.
we worked pretty hard to get the opportunity to have a conversation with him. I think we should take that opportunity. We'll see what he tells us.
Well, Gallimar is about 20 feet ahead of you, head bowed, shuffling along. Marvello's near him, but, maybe he'll just let you talk to him now.
Should we go over?
May as well try.
Cool. Let's go talk to Gallimar.
You can walk forward. Are we all going as a group, I assume? You all walk forward, and kind of Marvello kind of hears extra treads sort of behind him, and kind of turns round in quite an alert fashion, and kind of nods and says, "Ask him what you want, as long as I can hear it." Galamar's just kind of like, with his kind of like unfortunate physical state, he's not really built for long walks, especially not manacled. So he's kind of shuffling along in a somewhat painful manner, kind of half hunched over. But he doesn't seem to be, he's not complaining. He's just kind of staring at the ground and trudging forwards in a very resigned fashion.
So I don't know who's going to do the talking, but I'll jump in unless somebody else looks like they're going to.
I think we just show him the note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's this, Galamar?
He kind of carries on. Are you kind of holding it out to him within his field of vision? Yeah. John, can we have the image of Galamar or Red Eye up, please? And as it doesn't really turn up in the image, but he does have red eyes, hence his name. And he kind of trudges forward a couple of steps, and then he doesn't turn to you, but you see his eyes kind of flicker over to the note you are proffering out to him, and he looks back down and says, "I'd have thought that was self-explanatory."
The prince hired you and the Red Eye to attack us?
Watch you and strike if we could. Yes. He offered.
Why?
Why did we accept, or why did he want us to do it?
Both.
I don't know why he offered. Never met him, never saw him. One of his agents brought that to us. Everyone's heard of the prince. Sorcery. Power. Protection. No protection anymore.
Who is the prince? What is he the prince of?
Red Eye shrugs, which is quite a difficult thing for him to do, and says, "No one knows. There's just word. Many on the street know of the prince, especially those who have had to work in dark corners. It's a name to be feared, respected. When he gives you an offer like that, you either listen or you run. I can't run. Doesn't matter now."
What about his agent?
A woman. Average looking. I don't know what to tell you. Could have just been a messenger.
Anything about what she wore? Hair color?
Maybe brown? I don't know. I can't remember.
What is Regama?
Regama was my mother's name. Or at least before. She just went walking one day. Found a hornet's nest. They were big. And the sound they made, the buzzing was wrong. Cut through the air. Seemed to leave a vibration behind it. And the stings, they just got worse and worse. And then she started growing. We had to flee the tribe. Took refuge in Blackmoor. And then when it was clear that others would protect her, protect me, if I let them believe she was something more. You do what you can.
So the cult was built to protect her.
That's right. Worked well.
Not for the cultists.
Not for anything. But for a while. And sometimes, if you're someone who needs to find themselves in Blackmoor, a while is all you can wish for. Doesn't matter now.
Did you ever send a message to the prince?
No. All we got was that note.
Do you remember last week when we came out of that hole and we were the heroes? Those are good days.
I can't believe you led those people to fanaticism and you didn't even believe in it yourself.
He kind of turns and peers at you sharply and says, I believed in protecting my mother. Don't judge me, rich boy. You just murdered her. He looks down and carries on trudging forwards, and I don't think you're going to get another word out of him.
I guess we back off and maybe talk privately again.
That's that then. What a messy day.
Doesn't seem like we're much closer to the prince, whoever it is. I do think at least we dealt with an assassin that was after us, but who knows if she was the only one or if there are more.
Oh, there'll be more. Ethically speaking, at least, Askrai, I think we're a lot closer to the prince than we were this time yesterday.
I don't know.
The sad thing about it is you said we came out the other day of the hole as heroes. I think we're going back to Thistlehold as heroes.
Yeah.
That's another cult dealt with.
I don't
So-
think we've done some great act, but was leaving this cult around really an option? And was
If
any other
weeding
way of
out-
dealing them an option?
If weeding out forms of corruption is putting down desperate kids, I don't know. Ask her. That's and Tom, I think this is your department.
There are ways to solve the problem before it gets to that point.
I think we did everything we could to stop it getting to that point, and I don't see how we could have done differently. What we did was not right, but it's not. I'm learning that heroism is not about what you do, it's about how it looks. And if you weren't there and you didn't see it, then we went down to Blackmoor and rooted out a cult.
Well, the thing is, what
We know
rooted out-
different. We know different, but when we get back to Thistlehold, they're not going to understand.
I think we rooted out half a cult. I think there's a lot of people up there now who are not going to be happy that we've taken their only imagined route to salvation. I don't know.
Maybe something else will spring up, but the red eye is done.
Yeah.
Well, Marvello definitely told you that kind of there were a lot of red eye cultists in the garbage heap. And you think based on who you fought, you killed a lot of people, but you definitely get the impression there were a lot more red eye than that.
Yeah.
So whether or not this will have taken away their remains to be seen, I think.
Yeah.
Safe to say.
I didn't mean that we killed them all. I meant that we did kill their reasons
Yeah.
to exist.
You did, and you removed their leader, and presumably the ones who fought you were the most fanatical of the groups. So hopefully, yeah.
I
You guys
think
go.
I think that we need to talk about what happens when we get back to Thistleholes, because we've talked about how we might be. We should forget that there are numerous assassins. Oh no! Have you lost me?
No, you're back now.
back.
Okay.
Back now.
The elf said an assassin, but multiple cults.
Yeah.
I keep coming back to this elf because it was the elf that set us on the path to Blackmoor. It was the elf that told us about the assassin and about the prince.
I'm gonna shoot Alindra a look at the minute because you've said elf about 27 times, and it's the one thing we haven't told Marvello around.
She failed the vigilant check, mate. We're all among friends here. You're on mute, man.
You're on mute,
that is interesting. Nothing is going to happen either way immediately now. But Alindra, can you make a discreet roll for me, please? And I don't have Marvello's stats right here, but I'm just going to average out. Could you just make a discreet roll for me, and let's see if
Just a flat discreet roll.
Yeah,
would require a 9, and I just rolled a 10.
Ooh.
Okay,
she's not subtle, is she?
Just carry on.
I keep coming back to that conversation, and I think we need to understand why it happened and what they were trying to tell us, because we've got a bunch of information and no context.
We've got other stuff we need to look at. Look, eventually my ticket's going to come up with a legate, and we're going to get to talk about the key. What else is on the list?
We
want to talk to your woman, the fiery-haired lady, the adventurer, if we can find her.
Lysindra.
Lysindra. And also, and I did go back and double check the timings of all this, so it is right. You have a meeting with Kargoy Salamos, not tomorrow, but the day after.
And of course, we have that ambush organized by Serex.
The trap.
Ambush.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just rephrasing it with my spin.
Sure. Yeah.
That was Steo. Yeah. It's not an ambush. And if you go into it thinking it's an ambush, it's more likely
I might get out alive.
Turn into more people dying.
Yeah. We and by we, I'm not sure if this includes me at all, but for the sake of argument, we are going to that anyway because we care about what Kargoy Salamos is doing, because we want to relay that information back to the church.
I mean, for all we know, Kargoy's the prince.
It seems, if anything, Kargoy will be opposed to the prince. He at least seems to believe he's acting in accordance with some part of the church. It doesn't seem like he would be allied with outright sorceress cults, but I suppose we owe it to...
but maybe he employs all kinds of people to do work for him. I don't know.
We may as well go.
Okay, so there's the legate, there's Kargoy. I don't think we're going to make any contact with our foresty friends unless they want to find us, will we? I don't know. Well, there was the talk about the halls of 1,000 tears.
We're not. That's deep Davokar stuff. We shouldn't even really talk about that right now.
I think this is probably about time where you will arrive at the eastern gate to Thistlehold. The city guard kind of walk in, visibly some of them kind of breathing a sigh of relief that they didn't get swamped by some cult ambush on the way back. And Gallimar is led off, presumably to the jail. And as that happens, kind of Marvello gives kind of a few orders out and sends people off, and then kind of turns, kind of sheathes his sword and slings his shield and walks over to where you are, kind of like maybe by where the horses are being kind of restabled, and says, "All right, well, that was unpleasant, but a day's work that needed doing. Trust me, some of these individuals have motives purer than others, but nothing good comes out of venerating an abomination from Davokar."
Agreed. Marvello, as a captain of the guard, what do you know about the prince?
I heard that. A name on the wind, in shadows. Something to fear, something to tell rumors about. The prince is behind the darkness in Davokar. The prince uses the darkness in Davokar. The prince is Lassafor Nightpitch. The prince is Father Elfeno. I'm the prince. You're the prince. I'm not sure he even exists.
Okay.
But you work the guard long enough. You'll hear it.
Does the guard have informants, people who are on the shadier side of business in Thistlehold, where they get this information from?
I'd certainly never... I'd never hand over official guard funds to procure such things. Why?
We've had people make attempts to take our lives, and it would be prudent for us to intercept that in the future. Maybe you're right. Maybe the prince doesn't exist. Maybe it is a bit of a myth, but
Look,
it would be worth us.
Stitched into Eroc's cloak. The same note. Prince or no, someone sent 2 cults after you that we know of. I'd be willing to put down money that was who was paying that assassin's wage as well.
Yep.
Would you show him the paper?
So you can see why we're interested.
And you heard about some of this from the elf.
Sorry, what elf? It's I guess this is what, a cunning roll?
Steo, I can do you all favors, but you have to tell me things. That's how this works.
Look,
you ask if I have informants. What do you think you are?
Look, Marvello, we rolled a camp for you today. It was bloody work. Just maybe we come back to you and give you the story time. But
you've been
right
poking
now,
around, asking questions, various high and mighties for the last, 2 weeks? Who do you want to see that you can't see?
We've an appointment standing with the legate to find a key we find.
Tell me who the elf is and I'll get you the appointment.
If we knew who the elf was.
All right, tell me everything you know about them. Because if they have an agent in these walls that I don't already know about...
He knows anyway, right? The elf killed Eroc.
The elf killed Eroc, not you.
We were chasing Erok. We were going to kill him. The elf killed
Right.
Erok. Threw an axe from a rooftop. Warned us that the prince wanted us dead, that several cults and at least one assassin were after us, and then vanished. That is all we know. We didn't get a name. We don't know what they want. We ran into this elf who dumped a bunch of warnings on us, all of which turned out to be true. And we have no way to contact them. That's all we know.
Ascarai, can you give me a discreet roll at, let's say a -4 at this stage, please?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Okay. I need a 9. I got an 8, so I made it.
Oh, my God.
Is this why you wanted to talk to Golden Grasp? It's well known that she has truck with them.
That's
Right now, the only reason we want to speak to her is because she keeps following us around, and we're beginning to notice it. So maybe she's got some more keys to this puzzle, but we won't know.
All right.
Not yet.
So here's what's going to happen. You're going to keep me updated. As long as you're within these walls, and as long as this thing is happening, you're going to come to me every couple of days and tell me what's going on. In return, I'm not going to fuck with you. And neither are any of the city guard. And as long as you have the safety of this city at heart, you might even get some help. I'm also, now that my shift is done, going to go to the Queen's Legate and get you that appointment.
Yes, sir. Thank
Don't
you,
keep
sir.
elves from me. He
Lads, I
turns
need
to
a
walk
pint
off
of some.
unless anyone wants to say anything else to him.
I just say, lads, I need a pint to wash this blood off my hands.
Agreed.
where should we go?
Where shall you go?
Yeah.
So of the place, like let's go through the places we usually. So the Witch and Familiar. Obviously,
No.
last time you were there, you got poisoned.
Not going to the Witch and Familiar is
yeah.
bad for business.
Sure. You know
One
where you
star
come
review.
in? You're literally right next to Brew. Do you remember Brew, which was where you went when you wanted to not be at the Witch and Familiar with the big ogre bouncer? And you're in the Eastern Square, which Brew is in the Eastern Square, so you could pop in there.
This is Adventurers Weatherspoons, as I recall.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Right.
A little bit more Larry than that, but yeah.
Well, I mean,
Depends
A
on
bit
the
more
Weatherspoons.
Larry than Weatherspoons.
Don't,
So unless
don't make
we
me
wanna-
go all working class on you.
There are different levels of Larry.
There are. Weatherspoons is not at the bottom of that pile.
I've derailed this, but I was just trying to fix which tavern it was in my head. And that's
Sure, yeah. But yeah, it is
mentally,
like
that's where the
a
picture
lot of treasure hunters and stuff go in there. And generally, like, it's a little bit rough, but if it gets too rough, the ogre starts like picking people up and ramming them into the ceiling. So yeah, absolutely. You can walk in there. It's relatively busy. But you can find a kind of table in maybe the loudest part of the room. And you know what? There's and I'm not going to use this to do a mood destroying certain minstrel cameo, but there is a minstrel there, not one we recognize, who is playing. Chris, name me a slightly obscure medieval to Renaissance instrument, please.
Oh, fecka. The Thobo, the really long guitar.
The Theorbo, I know
Theorbo,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, playing a Theorbo. Yeah. It's quite good. So
When we're sat down, I will hand Antom the pouch or vial or whatever I got off the assassin. And just say, I found this on the assassin. Any
Pouch
idea what
away.
it could be?
That's a flat old cunning roll, please, Anton.
Okie doke. Let's have a look. No, that's a straight 20.
Oh, you know exactly what it is.
These are really good to eat. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you think that they are healing herbs of some kind?
I've got Medicus. Can I make a roll as well? Or
No,
is this
because it's
Lore
Lawmaster,
only?
not Medicus.
Is it? God.
You're on mute, Mike.
Sorry, I will. Just announce confidently that they're a healing fungi of some sort, and I will safely secure them about my person for use at a later date.
Maybe at a really critical moment when someone's making death rolls.
Why would an assassin have healing herbs on them?
Assassins
Just
get injured
desperately trying
too.
to save the day.
That's true.
Good stuff. So, is there any conversation we particularly want to happen at Brew, or are we kind of drawing a veil over the party for this day?
Let's take a
desperately
quick
try and
second.
relax?
I'd like to take a quick second and talk about Marvello.
Go for it.
Right. We just needed to not tell him about the elf. That's all we had to do.
He'd heard about the elf from somewhere.
Just the Elmo stare at Alindra. Look,
there wasn't anything to tell. Right? We'd already said that the prince was after us. He already knew that the cults were after us.
No, 100%. The cult stuff, we keep him on board. No better man.
And if he's asking about the elf, I thought it made more sense to clear up that, like, this isn't some friend of ours that we've been hanging out with and conspiring with. This is a stranger that we met one time, which is true.
And if Marvello is helping
the
us
problem
with the
is
cults, and the elf knows about the cults.
Yes, and the problem is Marvello is not a fan of elves. I love how he says he doesn't like elves in the city because he can do nothing to stop them. This is the second one I've had intimate experience with in the last 6 months. Now he has us in an awkward position because he has us under an ultimatum. We have to go and report to him. And now he has us in a situation where the elf wants the cults out. Marvello wants the cults and the elf out. We technically need the elf and any of their kind to give us more information on all of the really weird stuff we found from other sources that lead us towards the source of this issue, which memory serves is in Davokar, not in Thistlehold. Like, Marvello's great, but you have to manage his information.
We at least didn't give him the name of the only elf name we actually have, which is Tiara Tiana. So there's presumably some other elf that he still doesn't know about.
Yeah,
many elves.
We've still got a secret elf
in the back pocket.
At the very least, hopefully, Marvello is more concerned with the cults than the elf. And if we have to work with the elf to get rid of the cults, then we will.
I think Marvello has been deeply suspicious of what we've been up to. And I think now he knows almost all of what we know, which is actually not that much, about why any of this is happening to us. Tell me if you disagree, Theo, but I think he's got the best interests of Thistlehold at heart, and I think he's got our safety at heart as much as is within his power. At this point in time, I agree that we should manage him carefully, but he's probably the closest thing we have to an ally.
I mean, he kind of gave us more information in that talk, right? Because he told us that Lysindra Golden Grasp is close to the elves. So
that's new information.
It's new information, right? And that is another route to the elves should we need it.
No, I'd heard that before. Where had I heard that before? Anyway, that did not. Look, Marvello is the guy we want to know as much as possible, so long as this situation remains within the walls of Thistlehold. It has already left. Wherever those barbarians escaped to, the center of the forest, the story and the ranting of the elk with the golden hooves and the diamond horns and whatever else nonsense is going on out there, that is hopefully not going to become our problem. But if it does, it stops being town business and starts being Iron Pact business. And then we're in a whole different set of intersecting alliances and problems that we don't want to have to deal with.
I have no intention of telling Marvello anything about any of the church side of things and what happened there and what we learned from there.
Yeah, I think you elegantly deflected him from prying about the Sun Temple stuff by kind of saying really high up people at the Sun Temple told us not to tell anyone, and he kind of backed off as soon as. I think the guarantee he said, like, the only thing he asked was, "Does Elfano know what you're doing?" And you said yes, which you did because he seemed to know what Saber had asked you to do. So
yeah,
I think we have to assume that we're already deeply involved in Iron Pact business. That elf would not give us any information for our benefit. That elf does not care if we die to an assassin or not. The only reason that he might send us after one of these cults or after the prince is because the Iron Pact wants those cults and the prince gone.
Or they think that we can possibly be of some use in furthering the goals of the Iron Pact.
Well, the goals of the Iron Pact are to shut Davokar down, which honestly, I'm not entirely against, lads.
Well, I mean, from what you said, it sounded to me as if the job you were originally going to take that led to all of this was going to be involved with the Iron Pact anyway. So if anything, you've just taken a detour.
My point here is not that we need to disentangle ourselves from the Iron Pact. We need to not further entangle ourselves with them. My point is we can't let Marvello find that little bit out. Because that Iron Pact means elves. Marvello is labouring under the impression that this town is not riddled with them.
I may not be the most subtle person, Steo, but I hope I get some credit for leaving that detail out of my description with the elf encounter. That they were Iron Pact. I figured with everything that he knew, telling him what I told him was about as safe as we could be to get out of that conversation.
Yeah, you're right. You know what? You're right.
Luckily making that discreet roll.
I was gonna say, I was like, oh well, we know nothing about. Ooh, you got any things got a little tight recently?
Iron what?
I'm going to actually. Do they have rooms here for rent?
Brew is a tavern, not an inn, so no.
Damn it.
You can still, you still have a free room at the Witch and Familiar.
Yeah.
Let's just not eat there.
At Mother Mahira's agency.
Yes.
I wonder if the agency might be
barrack.
I wonder if the agency might be the safest place for us for now.
Do we sleep at the Hall of Knights?
No, I sleep at the agency.
Aaron could sleep at the Hall of Knights. Well, only Aaron.
There's not like a bunk room with. So let me just double check what we have to do. Like Marvello is going to go and try and unblock things with the legate. We have an appointment in a couple of days with Cargoi Salamos. And short of hunting down witches and elves, or reporting back what we find from Cargoi to the church, I don't see what else we have in terms of leads. Am I missing something?
I don't. There's Lysindra Goldengrass, but you don't really have any notion of how to find her. I am happy, just because this is how the timeline's fallen, and I feel like the group could use a rest. A bit battered and bruised and nearly dead. I am perfectly happy if you want to take like the next day and a bit to, recover, buy things you might need if you want to do that, go talk to people who you might want to talk to, and then we'll pick up on like the lead up to going to meet Cargoi Salamos. And in that downtime, you will not have heard anything from Marvello about the legate. How does that sound to people?
Yep, works for me.
Okay.
We have a standing discount I'd like to try and resolve as well. from saving some guy at the a weaponsmith, was it?
No,
Or-
he. I think he said he runs like an antique place, like an antiquities place, of which there were many in that area. And I think we brought this up before, and I think you're the kind of people who sell to antiquities dealers rather than buy from them, because you bring stuff back from the forest. You are perfectly welcome to go, but it may well be a case of like he's not going to have any like amazing martial treasures for sale because people don't tend to sell them to particular clients, you know. But you can absolutely go take advantage of and see what he has if you want. I don't want you building up your hopes that you're about to go to an amazing weaponsmith who's going to level up all your weapons, because that's
does he have a
not who
book
that
about
is.
the full history of my spear?
I will kill you dead.
Not with my spear, you won't, because it's no background.
It's literally. It is the spear of King Hurien Lo Apac, a king of Symbaroum who killed big toads back in the day.
You literally took it from his corpse.
I exchanged it for a perfectly serviceable city guard spear.
What more providence do you need than I took it from the corpse of a king of Symbaroum?
I'm genuinely curious. Do we have between us all any item that has more background than Steo's spear?
We have a lot of stuff we need. We still got those eyes and hands and stuff we haven't
I do still have the
bound
curve
ourselves
hand.
to on pain of
haven't even
death.
thought
We know
about
less
the
about
hand.
that. We know less about the hand than your spear by miles.
Elindra has a sword that catches fire. Nobody's.
Yeah, that's on the list of problems.
I've got a sword that doesn't catch fire that Aaron could probably give you about a 20-minute rote about its history on. But
that history would be, and then it was carried by their son. You know, like it's not maybe terribly exciting, except if you grew up with a lot of money.
Well, I suppose to take this rambling path back to the main road, I would want to call in and see if there's literally anything in that shop that's even like if there's something I could prospect on that if I think there's someone else I might be able to sell something to and make a couple of thaler.
Sure, yeah. Build contacts and the like. Sure. Well, Steo wants to go do that. Does anyone else want to do something during this downtime, as it were?
I have a couple of things that I would like to do, actually.
Mm-hmm.
The first is I would like to visit the Hall of Knights and try and find out any information I can about House Gillingripe, if there is a House Gillingripe.
Sure.
And the second one is not going to work, but to sort of try and find Savola or find any information about where Savola may have gone to ground.
Sure. How about anyone else? No?
I actually think that Anton would be quite interested in Father Savola's whereabouts as well, now that we're back in Thistleholes.
Sounds good.
I'll be looking for some more healing, assuming that I don't just walk off the rest of it.
No problem.
Yeah,
no problem at all.
Mostly a day off, sounds like, a spa day.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, for a start, anyone who has taken toughness, for the next 2 days, you can add 2 toughness straight away, just for that that healing aspect. And then let's. Okay, so it sounds like Aaron wants to do a couple of things. So let's do the first, like the first of those, I guess. So why don't you go to the Hall of Knights? Why don't we start with that one?
Okay.
And yeah, just start reading kind of the genealogies there and that kind of thing. And, it's not going to be too difficult a thing to achieve. You know your way around those and you're familiar with the Hall of Knights. Why don't you give me a cunning roll at, let's say, +2, please?
Could I, to help me with this, because I have contacts,
Mm-hmm.
or the contacts ability, boon,
Mm-hmm.
with a successful roll against persuasive, the character can call to mind a contact that should be able to help with a specific question or in a precarious situation. Contact may not be. Basically, could I call on someone who might be able to
do the roll? Yeah.
Yeah. That is success.
Okay. Yeah. You basically there is a clerk who often attends the Hall of Knights from various other places in the city where they also handle kind of administration and the logging of details and stuff like that. You basically hang around the Hall of Knights for a couple of hours because you remember they tend to arrive at a certain time. You arrive and you sort of they arrive and you question them, and they have a quick look up in the detail in the things just to verify what they thought, which is there is no Ambrian house called Gillengripe.
Okay.
So yeah,
I will thank them for their work.
no problem at all. So Steo, sorry, I'm desperately trying to find the few details on this encounter I can in order to flesh out stuff. So just give me 1 second.
So, John/Aaron, I do recall that Gillengripe was a kind of corruption of the real name. And I may be misremembering, but I think there was like a more formal name.
It wasn't a more formal name. It was she's also known as Lysindra Goldengrasp.
Yeah, and I thought Golden Grasp
was. Oh, it's the other way around. Okay.
Yeah, but could be Gillengripe is also apparently a taken name.
Yeah. So yes, Gillengripe or Golden Grasp, neither are noble houses of Ambria. The reason for people out there, the reason Aaron was curious about that is because Ambrians do not, in fact, tend to have second names unless they are nobles. But there is an increasing habit amongst treasure hunters, particularly successful ones, to essentially give themselves a second name. And it appears perhaps Lysindra was one of these individuals. In the same way that Lassif or Night Pitch, kind of technically a noble now, sort of, but was not born as one. Night Pitch is an adopted name. So
I'm gonna buy a few more arrows on my day of rest just to be ready.
Sure. Okay, yeah. So what the gentleman said, Steo, is that you should ask around the Antiques Plaza for. Sorry, just trying to find the specific passage I found again. You should. If you ever the specific words that he said to you, if you ever have artifacts for sale, ask for Master Alaba at the Antique Plaza, and I will give you a nice price.
Oh, so he is a selly guy. So maybe I'll just make a note of that and then remember it the next time we make it back from Davokar alive.
Sure, absolutely. Right, in that case, so the other thing we were going to do is try and find out something about the location of Father Salvola. And that's something that Aaron is interested in and Anton is interested in, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me how you're going to go about this?
I guess, first of all, are we doing this together or separately? I would think that we'll probably discuss this at some point and we'll do it together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I would maybe think about starting with a mission house.
That's what I was thinking as well. Sort of seeing if there's anyone affiliated there.
Yeah. Well, and also, is it being rebuilt and all of that?
That sounds like a decent idea. Well, you turn up at the mission house. It's as it was before, on the edge of kind of the nicer part of Thistlehold, but clearly mostly a smoking ruin now. The frame of it is indeed being rebuilt. There are a couple of what look by their age like maybe junior stonemasons there, and a couple of carpenters, and they're working on building up the mission house again. There are a number of individuals dressed in the novice robes of the Sun Temple who are kind of wandering around, chatting to them, occasionally even kind of talking to individuals who are clearly coming there seeking solace for one thing or another. And every now and then, as you approach, you can see that there are a couple of kind of other individuals kind of walking past, like shooting distrusting or worried glances at the mission house. But that's no great surprise. Sarvola was popular, but not completely popular. Yeah, but they are there and available to talk to.
Would it be unusual though for like the novices of the Sun Temple to be milling around there? Because that
I mean, the novices that running the soup kitchen in the garbage heap are Sarvolas.
So, yeah, I think that's what I'm sort of trying to get at though. Like, are the novices here like part of Sarvola's? Like, they
would probably be part of Sarvola's group. Yeah, the church has not.
Church.
Yeah, like what there is a certain amount once you're through the initial novice trials. There's a certain amount of freedom to like you are not bound within the Sun Church to become a part of the official hierarchy and rise through the ranks. So as indeed you've just basically fucked off from the hierarchy and started adventuring. So novices can kind of, as long as they don't claim to be a full theurg, they can just leave and go spread the word of Prios in whatever way they want. And clearly these ones have decided to throw in their lot with Father Sarvola.
Right. Well, I might just approach a group of them and ask for some news on Father Sarvola as a starting point. Maybe
Absolutely.
I'll start off by just saying I was here when the attack was made, and then I was busy with errands, and I've been away, and so, yeah, I was just wondering if there was any news on Father and his whereabouts, and any more news of any disruption that he's faced since.
The young novice who you approach, she's kind of standing there talking to a stonemason who's sort of measuring out a block, and she turns and looks at you and is clearly, you see an initial wash of distrust on her face as she sees you wearing the robes of a theurg. Why don't you, because you just said you were there, right? You didn't say, and we tried to stop it burning down. So why don't you give me a persuasive roll at a -2, please?
Oh, I smashed it. I rolled a 3.
Yeah. She kind of looks you up and down and says, well, Father Sarvola, he wants to return to his work here, but there are those of us in his ministry who want to make sure that it'd be safe to do so. So in the meantime, we are rebuilding and trying to make it safe and trying to... The father doesn't want weapons between him and his flock. But, well, we may have to compromise on that.
It's a good goal that he has, but this is a dangerous town, as we discovered just a few days ago. I did my best to try and stop the attack, but the attackers were numerous, and it was it came out of nowhere.
Well, I'm sorry, Father, I do not mean to doubt you, but many say things about and around Sarvola that we cannot trust at the moment. If you did as you say, then we thank you for that, and we thank you for your faith in the message of Sarvola, but he will return soon. He will return soon, but first we rebuild.
Is there anything that we could do to make it safer for him?
her eyes kind of flick down to the weapon at your side, and she says, "If you are offering your services, we cannot pay very much, but we would be grateful for any protection you can give on days when he holds mass."
I shoot a bit of a glance at Anton to make sure that that wouldn't be a controversial offer, and then say,
A literal living saint has asked Anton to look after this guy.
I'd say I would be glad to do so if he would be willing to discuss with me his mission in Blackmoor.
Oh, I'm sure he will when next he is here. And if you are offering your protection out of the goodness of your heart, I'm sure he will have time to talk to you. And yes, the mission in Blackmoor is very important. There are many unfortunate individuals there who are. Yes. Well then, when he returns, I'm sure he will hear of it. And simply come here, make yourself known, and I'm sure he will speak to you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your names.
I'm Arendar.
Oh, I didn't realize. She sketches a kind of very slight bow as you would make to kind of minor nobility. She figures you're minor nobility because she didn't know.
She's never heard of me. Yeah.
And Father Anton.
Father Anton, I will remember these names, and when Father Sarvel returns, we hope to see you here.
If anything could be done in the meantime, you will probably hear about it. There's been a large amount of disruption in Blackmoor over the past couple of days. They may need some extra
reached
help.
us last night, yes.
Yes.
It sounds an unfortunate situation, but I fear salvation would not have been found for those people in the arms of darkness. Perhaps Prios is working in mysterious ways, or perhaps this is simply men doing what they do to each other. Either way, we will be there to try and help.
Thank you.
Prios, bless you.
She nods, and a rare, very positive encounter there all round, as the two party members desperately try and cleanse some of their sins. So I think all we've got left is Alindra wanting to maybe go see a healer.
Yeah, massage, manicure.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds good. Well, I'll just assume that a healer knows what they're doing. I don't know if we've got a price for a healer, because these things almost don't seem worth mentioning to the others, but Alindra doesn't have that much cash.
No, that's true.
I don't think so. We will have a look and see how much a healer costs. There is a kind of like sort of lifestyle costs thing. Services. Have we not got a healer on here? Yeah, Medicus. Okay, 1 shilling. That's not bad.
1 shilling.
So if you lose a shilling, and I'm going to assume they make the roll, and I'm also going to assume they have like a herbal cure for use on you. So just roll a d6 and take that back.
3.
Not too bad. Could have been worse.
Cool. That's okay. I might actually spend 2 or 3 shillings and just properly live it up for a day.
I think we'll only have like 1 healer per day, because otherwise.
Yeah, no, I don't mean more healers, but I just mean
Oh, just go and
exfoliation.
Have a nice day. Yeah, absolutely. Get your hair brushed.
Yeah, all that
the
stuff.
height of luxury in Thistlehold.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So I think that's all the activities we wanted, right? So just to be clear where we are now. So you went and burnt out the red eye. Then you spent the next day doing all this stuff, and most of the next day, and the evening of this day is when you have agreed to go to Cargoy Salamos' house, and you know where that is, in order to meet with him and Serix. So before that happens, however, where do we think we might meet up before we go there?
Mother Mahiras, I think, at this stage.
Mother Mahiras? Okay, no problem. Well, let's say you're in the common room there, shall we? And let's say that coming down from upstairs, where maybe, like, even if you're not, I think you did say that you're sleeping there. Even if you're not, you will have like maybe a little storage cubby hole or chest in which to stock stuff. So let's say that someone's coming down from upstairs in order to kind of rejoin the group, and let's say that individual is in fact Steo. Steo, you're kind of trudging down the stairs to rejoin the others in the common room, and you can see that just kind of walking up the steps into the front of Mother Mahira's is Captain Marvello, who kind of is peering around, kind of peers into the common room and then looks around and sees you coming down the stairs and says, "Ah, perfect.
Evening, boss."
Evening." The kind of one of the kind of the more administrative members of the agency kind of ducks out of a side room with a look on their face as if, I don't recognize that voice, I'm going to tell them to piss off, and then sees that it's Captain Marvello and goes, "All right," and ducks back inside the room. Marvello says, "Well, an appointment. Dawn tomorrow at the legation."
Fantastic.
Any of the scribes or whoever there will be able to take you. And I'll be there as well. I thought I'd save you the time reporting in.
I was going to say, for our part of the bargain, we have a meeting tonight with oh God, what's his name? Actually, do you know what? Maybe it's best if
I don't think you gave this information because it was church business. So
oh, hang on. So this is this church business? Oh, rolling the cult was church business. Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay.
No, because Cargoi Salamos was the one who seems to be responsible for burning out Father Salvola, which is what Tiseba said.
Yes, you're right. So. The threads make sense, I'll say. Okay, we have a busy evening tonight, so maybe I'll have some information for you tomorrow as well.
All right. Well, it's yes, dawn. I wouldn't be late. The legate, she's not an easy woman.
Well, I'll get up early and leg it to the office.
He's definitely walked out before you say that. And in fact, to the point where I'd say that Steo said it to himself, and in the years to come would never be sure that he did actually say that, almost as if it's just non-canon.
I hate you so much.
The clerk in the office heard it, though, and he thinks much less of you.
He thinks you're an idiot.
Chat, please. Put this in the fanfic chat.
So you head into the common room where everyone is sat. Do we have any kind of conversation or like notion of how we're going to, approach this circumstance, or are we just heading straight to the fancy part of the city in Cargoi Salamas's house?
I think honestly we should have a quick chat about it, and I think that chat's going to go along the lines of Aaron, I think you need to do the talking here.
Yeah.
If you're sure.
Look, me and Serix are kind of the same person, and we don't solve our problems diplomatically. I think between yourself and Anton, figure it out, because I don't want to escalate this. We've killed enough people, and honestly, I still don't fancy our chances against this guy.
Steo, I don't know to what extent there is a diplomatic solution to this, because Tiseba gave me, and by extension you, instructions to root out the source of the threat against Father Salvola. And
I believe she also subsequently clarified that did not necessarily mean by murder.
Well, I think that we went back to her with are the results of our investigation. And she said, that's not enough. We want you to take away the threat.
Yeah, but that needn't involve murder.
No.
Like, I think what she wanted to know is that whatever the source of the current threat against Sarvola is, it needs to not be a threat anymore.
Yeah.
I think
we're already in trouble with the cults in Thistlehold, which is news to me. We're also tangentially in trouble with the church because we're having dealings with Sarvola. I don't want to add to that list the fact that we will have pissed off a load of nobles by taking a more spiky than necessary approach to the problem solving here. Also, may I add, yes, 2 days ago we rolled an entire camp full of flipping people attempting to kill us with their fists on the grounds that we were doing the right thing at the time.
What are we going to do? Politely ask them to stop being...
Politely figure out what's going on and find out if there's any way we can direct them to another... Why is it me saying this? Aaron, this is your job. You're the one who mandates for diplomatic solutions.
Then let me talk.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Father, Serix, he says a lot of very gloomy things, and in that way he is a lot like Stio, but he seemed to give the impression that Kargoi is working for someone else. He has friends in high places, is the term. And I just wonder if there's someone else to be saved in this situation.
Okay.
And Serix is a good person. He may not always seem it when he's been drinking, but he's saved my life and the life of my friends. And if he believes that his friend is a good person, then I don't see why I would argue with that.
I mean, we found some pretty strong evidence pointing to the fact that there's definitely something going on that shouldn't be going on that involves Serix and Kargoi. So I think we would be naive to assume that they, just innocent people caught up in something bigger.
I'm not saying they're blameless. I'm just saying, as we well know, sometimes you do horrible, horrible things for reasons.
And I'm saying that we have already put people's noses out of joints by asking them questions that they don't want to answer. And I think that we should be prepared to deal with the consequences of that. Like, if we're going to ask, who else is involved in this? Who are you working for, Kargoi? Then we should expect that that's going to displease them immensely.
Look,
That's
we
fair.
go into a room with Serix Adio. Not all of us get out alive. We go into a room with Serix Adio and a number of other people with whom he has had several days to prepare with before. And if our intention is to fight, none of us get out alive. Let's just make that real. This is not a tent full of paupers we're rolling this time. This is people with more resources than we have. So let's try, please. We don't win this one if we start fighting. Maybe we win this one if it turns to a fight and we work defensively and get out. But we don't win this one if we go in fighting.
I think if the fact we're going to a meeting, a discussion at all, I mean, unless they're trying to ambush and kill us, surely we're looking for a diplomatic solution. At the same time, I think we're going to have to make it clear that we simply cannot allow them to continue going after Sarvola. That's all we really care about, and that's all we really have to let them know, that whatever they're doing, whatever they want to do, we have sworn to a living saint in the eyes of Antom and the rest of the church that we will not allow these people to kill Sarvola. And we have to stand by that. We can't, negotiate our way around it. We have a line that we've drawn, and we have to let them know what it is.
That's fine. And I agree with everything you're saying, Ascarai, but what bargaining tool do we have? Like, that's the purpose of this conversation if we're going to solve this diplomatically. We can say this is our line, and we have this responsibility to protect Father Sarvola, and what happens if they say no?
At the very least, I should point out that whether you want to take him on that, Serek said he's not good for much of anything, but he is still good for his word. And he said that he can't promise there won't be any blood, but he can promise that if they unless weapons are drawn by you five, this meeting will be bloodless. You're safe, in the house of Kargoy Salamos while you're talking to him. For what it's worth.
We can speculate as to his motivations. We can sit here and speculate all night, or we can go. I think the plan to have Aaron do the talking, the rest of us present, is the best plan that we've got. Let's try to talk our way out of it. If not, let's fight our way out of it. But fighting is not the first plan.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we need to know or discuss or plan?
I think the one final thing is, if we're wondering who he might be working for or involved with, did we not find out that his brother was some kind of important person in Indaros?
Yeah,
Who's Serek's brother? Yeah, he is.
So it could be something to do with that, but who knows?
We know his brother's in the court, but we also know Serek's is fucking allergic to that stuff.
Just something to keep in mind if we're thinking there may be some higher power behind these people.
God, not the Queen. I can't fight the Queen.
So it sounds like our discussion has led to a natural end there. How about we leave the warm confines of Mother Mahira's common room and head to the southwest of the city as the day is already drawn in, and you've had a couple of days away from the rain as it abated after the storm that washed over Blackmoor as you took out the red eye. But now that rain is back, pattering softly on your clothes and your armor as you walk to the southwest to a house along Summer Street, close to the palisade, a large and definitely fancy but not ornate building. Above the lintel of the main doorway is the symbol of House Salamos, a leaping salmon against red and blue and silver, identical to the symbol you saw on the table in Salamos's house where you encountered the sellswords of the sun. And you can go up to that doorway and knock on it, should you wish.
Yeah.
Okay. You knock, and moments later, as if someone was waiting near the other side of the door opens kind of cautiously and slowly. On the other side is a young man just dressed in kind of, he's a guard. He isn't wearing kind of livery of House Salamos or anything like that, just kind of general cheapish armor, someone who's maybe mustered out from the city guard or has just entered life as a guard and mercenary. He has a jakar on a leash, which is kind of tending right at the edge of it and kind of slavering slightly and gnashing its teeth at you. But with a barked command, he jerks the leash and it comes to heel. He steps back and just, without a word, indicates for you to enter the hall.
I will do so.
So the hall is again very nicely built, all kind of wood paneling and the like, but very little ornamentation. The closest it comes is there is a cabinet with some glass panels at the front of it in the center, or just kind of off to the side of the main hall, which seems to have kind of a number of weapons in it. Some of them look a little bit antique, but most of them look quite modern and functional. Mostly swords, but there's a couple of maybe axes and a mace in there as well. There is another guard, also with a Jakar and a leash, and you can see off on in a side room, there are a couple of other guards sort of playing some kind of dice game, and they kind of glance over and very carefully watch you as you walk past that doorway. The two guards with Jakars indicate again wordlessly that you should go up the kind of slightly not spiral, but kind of moving around the sides of the wall stairs that lead up to the second floor of the house. You ascend there and find yourself on a kind of a balcony overlooking the hall. One of the guards calls out in a loud, kind of confident voice and just says, "My lord, your guests." A doorway along the balcony kind of doesn't creak open. I don't want it to sound like sinister, but with a slight creak, it opens up, and a very large, recognizable form kind of half steps out onto the balcony. Serex Atio is stood there, and he just kind of takes you all in, looks at you all, and says, "You will note we did not ask for your weapons. Come in. Let's drink."
Thank you.
Are we all walking into the room?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's a relatively large study room, essentially. One of the walls is taken up with books and scrolls. A quick glance over them will tell you that most of them are either kind of historical or military works. There is a table almost identical to the one in the other house, but a lot newer and nicer looking with a fresh coat of paint. Around that, or rather, I should say, kind of at the head of it, stands a man. He is kind of very much aging, but still tall and powerful looking, although if anyone can claim that in a room with Serex Atio, but he is still, he's certainly maybe even a little bit taller than Stio and Alindra, who are both quite tall and strong looking. He's dressed in quite a simple sort of black silks and linens with not like a robe, when I say a robe, like a kind of like a house coat style robe, with like a long black coat over the top of that. He has grey hair and a somewhat unkempt grey beard, but more in a kind of like, he doesn't particularly care about his appearance than he's actually unhygienic or filthy in some way. John, we have an image of Cargo Salamos. If you could bring that up for us, please. There we go. As we can see, quite a stern-faced individual. Serex Atio, he is sat at the head of the table, sort of leaning back, leaning against one arm of the chair, his hand resting on the pommel of his sword, which is leaning kind of against his chair, his high-backed chair on the other side. There's another chair for Serex Atio, who wanders over, sits down in a slouching fashion, and immediately starts pouring himself some more wine. And also on the other side is a woman you have not seen before, a heavily scarred woman with patchy dark hair going silver, looks to be roughly the same age as Serex and Kargoi, and is dressed in very functional leathers. She is kind of like rolling a knife around with two fingers, with the point into one finger, which is kind of actually softly dripping some blood from it, and the other on the pommel, and kind of like keeping it sort of rotating like that. She has a somewhat unpleasant grin on her face as she stares at you all as you come in. Kargoi stands up and says, "Well, it's about time this happened, I suppose. Take your seats. There are enough seats for you around the table. Here, wine. Bring the food. I assure you, you will not have a repeat of your incident at the Witch and Familiar. He kind of pulls up his chair and sits down and then seems to kind of think of something and says, "That was not me. I just have ears around the city."
I believe you. Thank you, Sir Salamos, for this meeting.
Sadar, I believe.
Yes.
Erebus has a sloppy mouth. Filthy bastard. A couple of servants come in with, like, it's not a banquet, but it's very nicely seeming cooked food. There's some roast pork and roasted vegetables and the like, and maybe some slices of bread and cheese, and they kind of lay it out. Serex absolutely goes to town on it immediately and starts stuffing his face, as does the woman with a little more circumspect fashion. Kargoy kind of doesn't even look at it and is just kind of glancing across each of you in turn and says, "Well, I know you. You're a guardsman, aren't you? I've seen you around the city before."
That's correct. Steo is not touching the food or the wine at this stage and is fairly as blank faced as he can do with all his guard training.
Are you actually a Theurg?
I am. Member of the Sun Church.
You found a funny thing to get involved in.
Yeah, this is the path that Prios chose for me.
I don't know who you are because you wear a mask all the time. And you're new, aren't you? I'd heard of some tell of the others before the last couple of weeks.
Yes, I'm relatively new to Thistlehold.
And did you train as a Templar?
I
Or
did.
are you new enough that you are a Knight of the Dying Sun?
I trained as a Templar. And now I am me.
All right. Eat, drink if you wish. I am still a Lord of House Salamos, and I will offer hospitality even to those who interfere with my business. Before you received your running orders from whoever gave you them, and we will return to that, were you already invested in the doings of this Father Sarvola? Or has your paymaster driven you here entirely?
This is a new mission for us.
Though I can't say our paths with the Father wouldn't have crossed if this hadn't happened.
Yes. He somehow finds a way to stick his nose into much of the business of the city without seemingly intending to. I bear him no ill will personally, you understand.
Then may I ask why you have taken the path that you have?
Loyalty, friendship, old ties that still bind. You, guardsman, were you there? Before here, before Ambria.
I fought in the war, if that's what you're alluding to.
Maybe you would understand. There's little point covering that ground. I'll be plain. I do not particularly want this to continue. But there are certain assurances I need, information I need, before I can consider my end of any deal we strike here. I'll come straight out with it, and this question needs an answer, or this talk goes nowhere. And you leave, and then what must be done will be done. By me, by you. Who sent you to protect Salvola? I know it was someone at the church. I know it was someone with the sway to make these things happen. There are two names. And it was one of them. The father or the saint. Tell me who.
I need to know what you would do with that information before I answer that question.
It will affect the degree to which I can compromise.
Why? If a leader in the church is ordering a thing, why does it matter which? Neither of them are a part of the dying son.
Dying son aren't involved in this at all.
Good.
You have to understand.
You are naive.
You have to understand that it is not really our place to say. The individual who set us on this task has be revealed reasons.
You might need to repeat. Sorry, you might need to repeat that,
us.
Mike. You just cut out for a second.
Okay, I just said that the individual who's asked us to do this has not expressly said that we can share this information.
Even if that information would resolve this issue for you? It is a simple question. There is no room for negotiation on this point from me. I need to know who I am dealing with to know whether this can be wrapped up safely here and now. He shrugs. He doesn't seem interested in hearing anything from you.
I'm going to turn to the others and say, we weren't sworn to secrecy. And if this is the way that we can resolve this without bloodshed, where's the harm?
Well, he's saying that he can only compromise depending on who it is. What if we give him the name and it's the one he can't compromise for?
Well, then the alternative is figuring out which one he can compromise and potentially lying, which we aren't going to do.
I think we tell the truth or we leave.
I'd say we could give him a name and then he refuses to compromise and we have given up our name for nothing.
We have to assume an amount of honor, especially in Sir Salamos' own house.
You understand these affairs better than me.
I say we give him a name.
The woman kind of cackles a kind of harsh, grating laugh and says, "What, are you going to take a vote?" Salamos kind of lifts one hand slightly and she sits back with a grin on her face. Serex has said nothing, and he barely has even looked up or looked at any of you.
How do we know that you do have the power to stop this? Are you the top of the tree?
if we reach an agreement, no more harm will come to Sarvola from the source which harm has come in the last few months. As to the future and whether other sources are found, I cannot speak. I am not going to protect the man for the rest of his life. All I can say is no more cell swords of the sun will be procured, and there will be no more work through me with the Black Friars. How good a fighter was that man? Did he wound one of you at least? They talk a big game, but I've never found them. Enough of this. Name or no name?
Oh, I think I will look around to each person in turn, looking for a nod or a shake of the head to see if we tell the truth on this one.
I'm going to give a nod on that one.
I give a nod and say it is your place in the church at risk, but
Asgrai will shake his head, but also shrug.
if you want deniability, Father, I'll just give me a nod.
Oh, things were simpler in that cursed forest.
You're not wrong.
Would you like me to say the name, Anton?
Okay, Lindra.
The woman goes, they did vote.
Dissaber.
Well then, no further harm will come to Father Sarvola from me or mine.
Thank you.
That's what you want, isn't it?
If I feel we may be extending your hospitality too far to ask who, if any, who do you owe an allegiance to, Sir Salamos?
Again, not allegiance, ties, friendship, duty. I'm afraid all I have for you is all I've given. No more harm will come to Sarvola from any action of mine or anyone affiliated with me. Not me, not Serex, not Roya, no one I pay, no one I contact. Nothing. There is no trick in this deal. You have dealt with this problem. Are we agreed?
Yes.
Then we are done. He kind of slowly, kind of slightly creakingly gets to his feet and gestures at the table and says, drink your fill, eat your fill. Good evening. He turns and just walks out of a door. Kind of not the one to the balcony, another one. Serex nods. Good, good, good. He's not going to come back in.
What's Roya doing?
She's still looking at you all with kind of a grin on her face, but she's clearly kind of like there was kind of a tension to her shoulders you didn't see before, and now it kind of relaxes, and she tucks the knife into like a little what would you call it? Like a no, like not a scabbard, but like a sewn thing in her. Kind of tucks it in and then reaches over and grabs some food and drink and starts eating.
I will pass a nearby wine carafe closer to Serex and say, shall we... Should you and I talk further at a later point?
He shrugs and says, as far as I'm concerned, this business is done. Yes, we'll talk later.
Thank you. And thank you for setting this up.
It took some persuading, Dar.
I owe you.
Don't fuck with him again. And I know that sounds like a threat from me. But I'm a simple, basic man. Kargoy is much smarter than me. And smarter men cause more pain.
I don't think any of us have any interest in fucking with any of you. And I sincerely hope that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we have reason to.
Got enough enemies in this town.
Roya says, one more now I've seen your face. It's a joke.
I will drink wine.
Still not eating or drinking anything. At some point, I think I'll maybe even count to 30, and if there's a silence for 30 seconds, I'll just stand up and start making ready to go.
Sure. Nope. Yeah, there's definitely a silence for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Serex kind of nods and says, more for me, and pulls in kind of your plates, any food that's left over. You can walk out of the door. The guards are right there at the door. They escort you off Kargoy Salamos' property and leave you out in Summer Street, having perhaps dealt with at least one of the threads of this tricky little conspiracy-riddled investigation you are going about in. And I think that's quite a good point to leave our session for the week. Thank you so much out there for watching or for playing, if you're one of these wonderful people. Throw some comments and questions in the chat, please. We will talk about them after I do a wee bit of promo. Down below, there are links to YouTube and Twitch. You're watching on one. Please check out the other. There are links to social media, Patreon, and Discord. Those all do the thing you'd expect them to do. We run 3 weekly series here on Twitch. There's usually Shadows of Estrin on Monday, but for the next couple of weeks, it's going to be on Tuesdays. Wednesdays is Symbaroum, and Thursdays is Cincinnati Chronicles, which is our World of Darkness anthology series. All of those start at 8 o'clock p.m. GMT. We also run a one-shot on the first weekend of every month. The next one should be, has yet to be completely confirmed, but should be coming up on Sunday, the 6th of February, and that will be Tales from the Loop, which is a game we haven't played yet, and I kind of can't believe that we haven't played it yet. It's going to be very good indeed. We have a number of individuals to thank for follows and subscribes and the like. Over the last few days, thank you for the follows from Lord Hogfred, Top Down Tabletop, and Caluardo. Thank you to Painful DM for the resubscribe, and thank you also to Azimuth for the resubscribe and the bits earlier. Thank you very much indeed to everyone. John, what you got for us? What's in chat? I mean, at what point did you say that?
Just now.
Yeah. Just now. In response to having to, well, not having to, I suppose, but choosing to say Desaber's name.
Sure.
I couldn't
Absolutely.
put Anton through it.
Anton,
Just like, I'll sell out a saint. Like, the church hate me anyway.
That's fine. It's all good. We'll go next. One from Steve. The group clearly needs to devise a secret method of voting before any more high drama meetings. Sure.
Yeah, we needed more planning going into that than I had realised.
But
Well-
on the other hand, you didn't know what he was going to ask, so
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we got, it's fair to mention, exactly zero information about
Yeah.
what plot he's involved in.
I think the best thing to do is to turn up without a plan, because whenever you go into a situation with a plan, the wheels fall off. Yeah, pretty much.
Is that-
especially if
it's
I'm
Very
involved.
true.
You
Very
can't just
good.
add us like that on our own stream.
The thing is, at least when the wheels fall off, we have wheels.
Yeah, you got more wheels. I mean, if you have wheels on a thing, do you really have those wheels? Do you only really have them when you're holding them and they're no longer turning?
I mean,
So,
if you
more
were the one
wheels.
that attached the wheels to the thing in the first place, then I assume that you've got a sum zero wheel situation.
This
here.
party has never added wheels to anything in its life. Next comment, please. 42, good to see you. What government office opens at dawn? The office of the Queen's Legate, apparently.
Can't believe my pun has been de-retconned.
One from Sam. I was there throwing Molotovs. Any idea where Savola is?
Yeah, good job on passing that one roll we needed.
Savola. I've got an arrow with his name on it.
No, literally, it's engraved. It's like it's a gift for him. I made it myself.
You can hang it above the mantelpiece. Yeah.
And I've got this was valid at the beginning of the episode and at the end.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how wretched does the group feel at the moment? Another one from Steve. Yeah, all right. Let's have both those numbers and let's go round. How does wretched does Aaron Dar feel on a scale of 1 to 10 at the beginning of the session and at the end?
Well,
You know?
at the beginning of the episode, he was feeling maybe about, I said a 9, but with the standard Arendar optimism, which evens out as a normal person's about 6 or 7.
Sure.
So it's a low point for him, but he's still got a meal
Absolutely.
in the evening, so it's fine.
How?
Now, though, I think he's doing all right. I think he's got a meeting with Savalas to talk about the mission. He's resolved whatever the saint business is. He's doing good work for the church. He's made up best buds with Serex Atio. This fight is only about a 3
coming
maybe.
up Dar.
Yeah.
How about everyone else? How have we got? Where have we moved on the wretched scale over the last 2 hours?
Worse.
Worse.
I think Anton started off like about 4 because he's quite pro rooting out of cults.
Yeah.
And then that last interaction hasn't left him with a good feeling.
No.
I think Askray was at a 6 and has moved down to a 5, just purely because he's been reminded that there are people more wretched than us around.
Sure.
So he's feeling a bit better about himself.
Sure.
I think Alindra went from probably a 5 because I don't think she's under any illusion that she or anybody else she knows, except maybe Aaron, are actually good people.
Sure.
We were just doing a thing that had to be done. But I think I've probably sort of shadowed Antom's curve a bit, even though I think Alindra was prepared to sell out the living saint. I think she's probably a bit conflicted about that. So we've maybe cranked up to a 7 or an 8.
Nice. And how about Steo?
I've gone
10.
from an 8. I've gone from an 8 to a 7 because Steel has fought in a war, so 10's reserved for special occasions.
Sure.
But yeah, this is not. We've not. I think we've passed all of the tasks we've had to do, but we haven't really got the extra credits mark to kind of really figure out what's going on.
Sure.
I figure there's a couple of paragraphs in the source book for that would really help us understand what's going on that we just haven't been able to tactical our way into getting to.
Well, I will say, I mean, it will quickly turn out to be the case. There will be very little in the way of spoilers. Here's what I'll say to you. Act 2 is a very big chunk of the book, as I said. It's split into about 10 sort of mini chapters. There's one left, and it's called The Queen's Legate. Oof. So we are approaching endgame here, folks. Act 3 is a lot shorter than Act 2.
Well, end of the middle.
End of the middle, and the middle is much bigger than any other bit. So yeah. We are getting
Exciting.
there. Answers will be slowly gliding into view, not all at once, obviously. Yeah,
bracing myself for some hot exposition drops.
Absolutely. Yeah, and they are in order. We've just played them in the order that we've bounced around from, but we've pretty much done everything, which you don't have to do. But yeah, pretty good.
Very thorough.
Have we got any other comments or questions, John, before we wrap up? 42. How does Aaron feel about gauche common adventurers giving themselves family names?
I mean,
New money.
Nouveau riche. I think Aaron isn't too fussed about it. I mean, you can call yourself anything, but you really need to back it up. And it's not a family name unless you have a family. And Aaron has a family. They're all dead, but he has a family.
Sure. Yeah. He has a legacy.
Yes.
He needs to
There's a Gilbert and Sullivan line from Pirates and Penzance where someone's like, I've betrayed my ancestors. It's like, you don't have any ancestors. You bought all of this crypt. Like, well, I bought these ancestors and I betrayed them.
Gilbert and Sullivan references. I love Solarian culture. So there we go, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, everyone, for playing. And we will catch you next week for more Symbaroum. Till then, take care. Stay safe. Goodbye.